didn't really know how to answer that in terms of like how to get from point A to point B.
And a lot of times it starts to get overwhelming of like even trying to keep up with questions or know like, okay, I don't really know how to answer that.
Yeah.
But
and so
I'll get back to you.
Yeah. So basically we had a phone conversation where we're like, why don't we bring our acting community to our creative mentors that have helped us get to where we are right now, and have those creative mentors answer your questions. Let's do that. And then that's how Bits of Wisdom was born. And so, I mean, what you working on recently?
I think we should start with you.
Oh, okay. Oh, fine. So I do have some exciting news. Okay, I got my first straight offer for a new recurring role on a Shondaland show. I can't quite tell you guys what it is because I signed, blah blah blah. But I can say that it's Shondaland, and it was really cool because I got the offer, and when I went to the table read, we need to preface this. They had booked you, and you weren't available. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. In the fall, they booked her on a show, on one of the shows, and she wasn't available because at the time she was on something else that was an NDA, but now we can talk about it. It was Top End too. Oh! Yes. And she was like, I'm so sorry, I'm working. And they were like, okay, cool. And then they brought her back in, and she went to the audition. Yeah. She didn't get it. I didn't get it, but then followed up to this offer. Which the thing that was so cool about it was when I went to the table read the other day, the showrunner and the creator of the show came up to me and they said, we have been watching your tapes for so many months. We've been having so many conversations about you, trying to figure out a role for you. And the only reason I even bring this up, because I don't like to talk about it, because I feel like I'm bragging.
Right. But we need to know. This is the stuff that we need to know.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because as an actor, I was like fucking shocked. I had no idea. I'm like, you guys were actually having conversations about me after I left the room, about me months later. Like, that blew my mind. Right. And the reason I bring that up is because you guys, you have no idea how often these casting directors, these producers, these directors remember your faces, remember your names. They know who you are.
They're just looking for the right role to put you in.
Yeah. You know how
it might not be that first, second, third, fourth, fifth. There's a guy that is on one of their shows, Jay Hayden, who literally had been in their office countless times, had never had a callback. And then he got called in straight to producers for a pilot, and he was almost not going to go because he was like, I've never booked from that office, like, you guys are kidding. And then he ended up booking the show. And in the room, the casting director said, this is Jay Hayden, one of our favorite actors. And in his head, he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've never booked from you guys before. And then when he asked them, they said the exact same thing. Yeah. We've been watching you for years. We were bringing you in because we like you. Yeah. You're talented. We were just looking for the right role. Yeah. And so many times it gets in our head that we're like, oh, I'm going into them again. Maybe this time. No, it's another no. Yeah. But that's a positive because you booked the room. And that's really what our job is, book the room. It's not necessarily book the job, it's book the room, build that relationship. Exactly. The business is built on relationships.
Exactly.
I'm so excited.
And what are you doing? Because Amy just got back from Mexico City from like
the third time.
For the third time shooting what?
A commercial. I don't ever say the commercials, I just say a commercial.
How many commercials did you do last year? Really, that's how many. Yeah, my point exactly. She has how many?
20-something.
Holy wow.
20-something? 20-something.
Right.
So at the beginning, which is going to go into mindset, the beginning of, because this is pilot season and mindset, the beginning of 2017, I was in a class and they were like, hey, we're going to make a vision board. And I was like, oh, I already have one. They were like, no, we're going to make one for the year. And I, for the first time, was like, I want about 2 commercials a month. Had never done that before. And by the end of the year, I had booked 21. Didn't meet that particular goal, but to me, that was like, whoa, I'd never done that before. Crazy. So the fact that I put that out there and then I proceeded to actually start to happen. And then the second year, I was like, okay. Then I realized, I was like, oh, I didn't apply that to television and film. So there must have been somewhere in the back of my mind that I was doubting that I was capable or ready. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of commercials, which I can now say I am a working actor. I live off of what I do. But I've been here for 15 years.
And I've been here for 13 years.
So it's the consistency, it's the persistence, and a lot of times what I say when people ask, well, what are you doing? I was like, well, yeah, my mindset did change, but also I literally have been going into these offices for year after year after year after year after year, and eventually something clicked.
Exactly.
But yeah, I've been doing commercials. I finished a play at the beginning of the year. While I was in Mexico City, I saw a play, loved it, didn't understand it.
I love that.
Was crying at the end of it, and met the writer, and I was like, and I found out what it was really about, and it struck my heart, and I was like, can you translate this? And so she translated it, and I'm producing it for Fringe Festival, and also I'm going to do it. So that's pretty fun, and then in the mix of going in for some pilots and some shows, and yeah. So that's us.
And so, pilot season. I know a lot of people in here have either...
Who's gone in for a pilot?
Who's gone in for pilots already this season?
Or in general?
In general.
In general. Perfect.
Tested? Booked?
Didn't get picked up? I never got picked up. I actually got cut out. But anyway, that's a whole different story. The only reason I bring this up is because the reason we're asking is because we know that there are different levels in the room of experience with pilot season. Some of you I know are brand new and are like just moved here and don't even have much experience at all with pilot season. You probably don't even fully understand like what's going on in pilot season, which is great because you're going to get a full depth of experience, full depth of education. Well, I don't know the words.
You're going to learn the creation of a pilot from beginning to end.
Yes.
In this evening.
Yes. And then of course we have some people, who have already tested, who have booked, who have been on series that have gotten picked up or haven't. And so one of the things that we're going to do also is we have our fantastic Brian Patacca.
Woo!
Yes. Who is a life
career business coach and spiritual coach for actors. We were told we had to say it exactly like that. We gotta get it right. Get it right.
Yeah, and we also have Karina Walters, who I bet a lot of you guys have actually auditioned for. I see a few heads shaking their hands who have auditioned for. And we'll actually read their bios right now. Yeah. We're really casual about this, can you tell?
But also the idea of like a lot of networking events or whatever events that you go to, they're very stuffy. That's not us. So
yeah, we want to make this fun and relaxed.
Laid back.
Fuck that shit.
There's so much. There's too much stress in the world.
Yes. I'll tell you both. I'll tell you first about Karina. So Karina Walters is a proud national board member of the Casting Society of America and has 13 years of casting experience. She has been working as a full-time casting director since 2012, sometimes as a solo casting director, sometimes co-casting with other casting directors, and for several years as a partner in Muckrin Walters Casting. Prior to that, she was a casting associate, honing her craft with some of the top casting directors in the business. She has worked on a wide variety of formats, including over 15 TV shows and pilots. Television series experience includes CBS drama SWAT, Season 2 and Season 3 of Lifetime's critically acclaimed series Unreal, love it, and Season 2 of Dirk Gently's holistic detective agency for BBC America, as well as Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell from Adult Swim, the Straight Out Report on Logo, Burn Notice on USA, The Good Guys on Fox, The Shield on FX, The Riches on FX, among others. Television pilot experience includes Mad Dogs for Amazon, Last Resort, she's turning on the air in case you're hot, on ABC, Green Bench on Adult Swim, Watching the Wilsons on MTV, and Awkward on MTV. You guys remember that show, right?
Yes.
Film experience includes independent features, The Shoe, Fixed, Magnum, Opus, Loaded, Bar America, North Boulevard, Oliver Stone and the Sand, as well as studio features Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows by Paramount, and The Watch, which is by 20th Century Fox. which was actually nominated for a CSA Artios Award. She has also casted several award-winning short films and web series. Karina Walters.
And a little bit about Brian. Brian is a life, career, and business coach and spiritual practitioner for actors. He is the founder of Actor Salon. Let's see. Oh, see, I am getting tripped up. This is what it looks like. MTV's Emmy Award-winning show Made selected Brian to helm an episode devoted to helping young actresses make it in Hollywood. He has been a contributing expert for Backstage magazine for over a decade. Brian has worked with more than 10,000 actors around the world and has spoken on the intersection of creativity and commerce at SAG-AFTRA, National Association of Latino Independent Producers, the New School of Drama, Northwestern University, Pepperdine, Pace University, Columbia, Waterfront Playhouse and Conservatory, NETC, Rose Buford College, John Rosenfeld Studios, Anthony Mendel Actors Workshop, Susan Batson Studio, One-on-One, TVI Actor Studio, and Act Now. Brian's clientele includes Tony Award winners, series regulars, stand-up comedians, award-winning screenwriters, and social media influencers. Brian has been on conference stages for Bob Apatech, International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association, Son Ovion, oh, you're giving me all of these words. Engelheim, and the Bristol Myers Squibb. Brian is a graduate of Northwestern University, Coach Training Institute, Coactive Coach Training Program, Marianne Williamson's Teaching and Teachers Program, Emotionally Focused Therapy Resource Centers, Hold Me Tight Couples Relationship Workshop. Brian is a spiritual practitioner in the tradition of A Course in Miracles and will be recognized by the state of California as a reverend by fall of next year. Oh my God, you're so marrying me. He started coaching backstage off-Broadway at the Donkey Show, and the rest is history. And we will welcome both of our guests, Brian.
That was a cold read, I guess. Should I give you a board?
Who are those names?
Yes,
I'm trying to give you something nice.
Oh,
Trying to give you something nice. So first I want to say, before we even begin our interview with both Karina and Brian.
you call me Brianna and Brian. Okay.
Brianna,
Brian, Karina.
We will also be doing an audience Q&A. So if you do have any questions, if you want to write those down, anything like that, hold on to your questions and you'll have an opportunity to direct them to the both of our special guests here. Amy has to get her one. Yes. So first, we'd love to start with pilot season. Yeah. So Karina, because like I was saying, a lot of the people here in this room, they either have no experience at all with pilot season, they don't even fully understand what it is, or they've already been on series, they've done pilots. Can you actually give us, what is the full overarching view of what pilot season is and how it works?
Yeah. There's variables, but I'll give you sort of the general state. So it actually starts with people will pitch, writers, creators will pitch ideas. They'll pick up, studios and networks will pick up a certain number that will go to script, and then they'll pick up a certain number of script to go to pilot. So that's generally when it comes to casting, is when it's been picked up to a pilot. So we get the script, once you've been hired, actually.
So how do you get hired?
Casting directors have to,
They're auditioning too.
Yeah, we have it's called a meeting when you. They don't call it an audition. But it's also not an interview; it's a meeting. Like I don't know where that comes from. But so you sit down with the producers usually. The director is often not hired yet, depending on what it is. But so you sit down and you talk about your ideas for some of the main characters. It's sort of like, are our tastes in line? What's your process like? That sort of thing. And then once you get hired,
And usually, how many casting directors do they meet with?
Oh.
Well, it depends. There's some producers who, I don't know if you guys follow who casts for what showrunners, but there's a lot of, like, Linda Lowy does all of Shonda's stuff, and April Webster does all of J.J. Abrams' stuff, so there's people that have casting directors they use for everything, and then there's sometimes, you know, new creators or new showrunners, or people that, like, their usuals are on their other shows, they have, you know, like a 4th or 5th show that they, you know, their regulars aren't available for. So generally, like 3 casting directors or teams they'll sit down with. And at that point, a lot of it sometimes comes from the studio. We'll say, like, here's people that we like, we want you to meet with. Sometimes it's referrals from other producers that you've worked with. So it's a lot of relationship stuff as well as, you know, your resume. So yeah, and then you sit down and you, once you get hired, you do the usual stuff. You write a breakdown. You go into a lot more detail with the series regulars than you would on just a regular episode, because it's, you know, somebody that in theory is going to have a 7-year contract. They have an idea of what the arc is going to be for the series sometimes, and you start seeing people. So I'll talk mostly about network pilots because that's really what falls in the pilot season. You know, a lot of the streaming services and cable networks do pilots
all year round,
and also a lot of them are doing straight to series things. So it's still like a pilot because you're casting the regulars, but it's not the same time constraints don't apply. So for the most part, what I'm saying is network pilot stuff. So you'll do a combination of things. You'll start seeing people right away, and then you'll also do lists. So
we're like, what? Go on.
About those lists.
Most networks, like there's a budget, right? There's so many things I could say, you guys. But there's
say it all.
This could be like a full hour.
It could.
I won't do that. But you know, like shows have budgets, so you can't have. Let's say you have an 8-person ensemble show. You can't have all 8 of them be actors who have $100,000 quotes or more, right? You can't afford that. But they definitely want some recognizable people, so it's like, oh, the new Shamar Moore show, you know? So they want some recognizable and then some fresh faces. So
You mean cheaper now?
It's true.
They're all famous.
Starting at like 11.
they do. I mean, there is also a level of pride with casting directors and with studios and networks to have like the next whatever. The person who like breaks out, like Gina Rodriguez, before Jane the Virgin, like, you know, everybody was sort of, and that's the other thing that happens, side note, in pilot season is sometimes there'll be somebody who's not really that well known, but like people hear that they're testing or that they're in the front running, and then everybody wants that actor. That part is really frustrating for us because sometimes it makes things happen too fast because they're just like, well, if we don't make a deal with her, somebody else is going to snag her, you know, because they're hot for that pilot season. So,
and it could literally be someone that before Ben had not really heard.
Or had done a couple of things but wasn't like, you know, sometimes I'm confused by. Sometimes I get it, and then other times I'm confused by what everybody's going to.
Wait, but going back to these lists, like where do these lists come from?
They come from, well, a couple places. So we'll generate lists of people that we think are right creatively, based on our conversations with the creators. There are sometimes, you know, people that the studio or network will say that they like, which sometimes the creators don't agree with, but you keep them on the list. So, you know, you just do a big master list, you see who's available, and then, you know, sometimes you make offers to those people, and then other times it's like a big puzzle, like, there we go. Stop doing that. So it's a puzzle, you know, like I said, they can't all be names, but sometimes you don't know which ones are going to end up being names. So you might read all the roles, and then it's like, okay, well, we now have those 3 names, so these 3 have to be from auditions. Sometimes you find somebody in auditions right away, and they're ready to test. Sometimes you have to go through several rounds, and you see hundreds of people. So yeah, that's how it starts, is lists and then auditions. I'm going to go super basic here, so if you know this, I apologize, but oftentimes you do a lot of pre-reads, which means you're just reading with casting. And then there'll be callbacks with producers and director. And then once you get to the place where you have 4 or 5,
between pre-read and callback with direct, Generally, how long does that?
Like, what's the timeline?
Yeah.
I'd say in general it's usually just a day or two.
Because
it depends on how you structure it. But like,
because sometimes we'll be like a week later and we're like still holding on to that thing, you know?
Yeah. Generally, I mean, it just depends on the schedule.
Oh, that's not.
You know, like I'll use what's one of the like Last Resort is one that stands out to me. It was years ago, but it was a Sean Ryan pilot that I worked on, and I think about that because it was a huge ensemble and each role was like completely different. But the way that we did it with them is we would do pre-reads in the morning, we'd have producer session in the afternoon, so we constantly just had schedules open.
Yeah.
And so generally if somebody got a callback, it would be for the next day. But sometimes you're doing a ton of pre-reads and your producers are out of town location scouting if it shoots somewhere else, and so then you have to like save everybody up and do callback sessions when they're back in town. So there's lots of factors, but
I have a question then. I know we're gonna get through this now, but now, okay, in 2019, I can't even tell you how many self-tape requests I've gotten for pilots. Do these actually? Where do they? Yeah, do they get?
Sure.
Do they get
So I should have said this
And why?
This is everything that I say is my experience.
Yes.
And my way of doing a thing. I can't speak for other casting directors. But yeah, self-tapes are, especially if you have a abbreviated timeline, like it used to be you would get 10 weeks for a pilot to cast. And
Just to
sometimes,
cast?
Wow.
and sometimes now you have 4 weeks. So sometimes self-taping is a way to just see more people. Because you're not doing the, I like
So
being
you are
with actors,
seeing
but you're
people
not,
in person and watching tapes.
yes, sometimes.
Who are better? I don't know how do you decide who gets what?
Thank
By the
you.
agent or the
Yeah.
person? I can ask the questions because I got no
Yes.
A lot of it's random.
It is.
Yeah.
It's random! Don't you dare come to me and say you're upset about it.
Okay, so this happened there was a CW pilot called No Tomorrow that I did. I was co-casting some things with Barbara Fiorentino.
Yes.
And she was doing No Tomorrow. And so I wasn't officially on that, but I was helping out. So, and I literally just had a couple of weeks to do it. And so there were people that we scheduled to come in, and it was like, okay, we're gonna try and test next week. We have 100 other people that we wanna see. Let's put out a self-tape request to everybody else. And I would be in the room reading actors all day, and then Barb would sit with her headphones on and be watching self-tape. So we could see, whereas in a room, maybe I could see 60 people in a day if I was going all day, and then she could be watching like 100 tapes in the same amount of time. Wow. Now the benefit of being in the room is that you get adjustments if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I can tell you things up front, or I can answer questions, but with self-tapes, you know, there were definitely times where she would give somebody a note and have them retape. And it's not, you know, it was just like a pre-read usually, so if they got a call back, then they would be in person for the director. So so I would say yes, self-tapes get seen. Requested self-tapes.
Yes.
I would also say that most of the times unrequested self-tapes will get watched, but we don't like to say that because we don't want to encourage it. But I always am like, but what if that was the person? You know? So I'll be like, don't send this, and then I'll watch it anyway. And again, just being, because I can't not be honest. There are times, the other benefit of the self-tape is like I can watch, if it's 3 scenes, and I watch the first one and it's not going to be them, I don't watch the rest. And that maybe sucks for you having spent the time on it. But like when we have a limited amount of time and it's like, not that they're bad, but they're not what we're looking for, or they don't beat. Sometimes it's that they're good, but you have 3 people that you know you're testing already. If they're not in that same caliber or check all those boxes, that's a phrase we use a lot because, you know, for a series regular, you may have like 10 different qualities or things that you're looking for, and somebody can have 8 out of the 10 and still not test because they don't have
all the 10.
Yeah.
But because tonight's abbreviated. Yeah. Okay, so going back to our timeline.
Yes.
So now we're at the callback.
So callbacks, and then again, sometimes you go through tons of callback sessions. Sometimes you go through one and they're like, we have 4 people we can test from this.
a question. How many people get called back? Well, first, like, how many people will you, on average, even read for a role?
It depends on how long it takes.
Okay.
Like I said, sometimes you'll find people right away, and then other times you are seeing hundreds of people. It just depends.
And they have to watch all those random tapes that you send.
Exactly. All those wild hours.
Chime in.
Good.
Keep doing it.
Is this alcoholic?
No, it's
Good.
not. It's
That's
water.
I'm not allowed to
Then next question. Testing.
Yeah.
So I have tested, I think maybe 3 times, and every single time has been really, really, really different. I've tested in the room where I think first I had a work session for the one pilot that I booked that I got written out of.
You still booked it.
Thank you.
Don't discount.
Thank you.
Here we go. I like
This is
that.
why, yeah.
Mindset.
I'm done here.
Where was I with that? Oh, so I had like a work session with casting and with the producer or the writers, and then we just did like a straight network test with like 10 people I think in the room, and then it was just as easy as that. But I've heard stories where people say it's like, oh, it's Fox, and they like go and it's like you're on a stage. And
Yeah,
like,
everybody does it differently. What I like that a lot of places are moving towards test tapes now.
Yeah.
So the work session will be taped, and then we will show the best of that because that's more realistic. You're not performing, unless it's a multicam, you're not doing it in front of an audience when you're actually hired in on set, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like a lot of the places that do we basically tape the work session, and then we'll still go in person and show those tapes so that everybody can have conversations about it. I actually feel like that's better for the actors too, because you can be an amazing actor and that's not acting, that's
performing on a
situation.
stage.
And if it's a comedy, like a single camera comedy, and you're in a room where people aren't laughing, like that can really, so
Basically my first test.
So,
I mean, they were laughing, but like it was at ABC, and they were like, it was so dark. There were like people in the shadows, and I couldn't even tell who all was in the room.
Yeah.
But it was.
How
How
often
often
they've heard the jokes, they've read it a
so
bunch
many
of times,
times.
they've heard it a bunch of times. So it's not that it's not funny, it's just that, and also there's a weird thing that happens in reactions, but also when it comes time to talk about the actors, where everybody waits to have the highest person in the room speak first.
Yes.
Everyone is like, I don't want to say who I like until I find out who like the president is.
Yeah, and then everybody like piggybacks on.
Yeah.
So then also just to define what testing is
Yes.
for people who maybe haven't done it before, aren't 100% sure. What is it?
So you do it in pilots where you don't do it with other things because you have usually a test option deal in place first. So if we know we want to test people, like I said, I'm going to say 5 is a good for a studio test. You have 5 people that our producers are like, they may have a favorite, but there's 5 that they feel like they would be okay with. You don't ever want to take somebody to test that you wouldn't be okay with because they will pick the person that you. If you go with like we're just gonna put this person in just so that they pick this person, they'll pick that person. So you want to be well. Never with me.
No.
She doesn't want to have it.
Because, if they're not like, if they wouldn't be okay with somebody, then I'm saying we shouldn't test them. So
Yeah.
in theory, you're good with everybody, even if you have a favorite. But you do, the business affairs department will do a deal with the agent.
And it's back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
The worst,
Figure out
scariest, horrible conversations because you're like, I'm talking about money, I'm not even there yet, it's so scary.
Right, and it's like
They have a
you
whole
know,
contract already that you
ready
sign
for you to
before
sign,
you
yeah.
even test.
you're like, I know how much money I'm gonna make if I book this. Okay.
But they do that because you don't, it's to protect everybody really. It's like you don't want to get in a situation where like you've decided who you want and then they know that's who you want and then they try and get more money.
Right.
You also, like if you can't make a deal, this happens with some of the names sometimes, is like they require more money than we have in the budget. If we can't make a deal, then we don't want to test them. We don't want the network to say like, that's what we want, and then we're like, oh, sorry, we can't afford them.
Yeah.
So, and it also protects the actors. So
I always sometimes get worried about that. Not worried. I mean, I've gone through it 3 times, and I mean, I'm coming in at the, I've got coming in at the lower end, and they always go, and then my agents go higher. But I always wonder, is like, how many times has it happened that an actor has actually not gotten the job because maybe the agent is asking for more than what the network is willing to pay? Do we know about this?
I mean, you should. I'm not a rep, but your rep should be telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always happened.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if there's ever a time that maybe they're
the
sort of
actors may
pushing
not
for
like it,
more than what we know.
But they would never fully pass on something without the actor.
The actor doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, we get it. You know, if somebody makes $100,000 an episode previously, and all we have is 50, like, I understand that. And then there's other people that are like, no, I understand that it's half of what I'm used to getting, but I really want to do this. So that happens. In theory, I can't say that.
26 is where I think.
No, my offer for Blackish started at like.
She tested for Blackish.
Oh.
It started at, and that was my first test, but mine started under 20.
Really?
Yeah. And they got it above 20, but yeah, they came in at probably like 17.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm fine with 17, guys. I'm not making that right now. Whatever you want to give me.
And that's a question that I have that both of you want to talk about is when it does come to that time to test, and you do have an actor that is, say, really green. They haven't
Novice.
Is there a way for that person to then still come in and like lead the pack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say one more thing about the money thing.
Yeah.
In theory, once the deals are closed, they should not make the decision based on money, because if the deal's closed, that means we're willing to make whatever. So you know, it's not like this person is going to cost this much, this person is going to cost this much.
We're going to go with that.
The money's done.
Got it.
You know, like at that point, it's supposed to be
Out of their
what we want,
minds.
because whatever we've said, we'll make it work.
Amazing. Got it.
So just so you know.
Like that.
And these rooms, wait,
Yes.
who is in these rooms? What color people and how old are they? I want to know.
That's a great question.
Which rooms?
The rooms
Networks,
with the 10
the
people.
networks,
Yeah.
the networks, and the.
It depends on which network you're at,
Yeah.
which studio you're
Yeah.
at.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
like.
Are we seeing less diversity? Are we seeing less minorities? I want gays. I want colors. I want women.
I'm trying to think of the rooms that I've been in. It really has been, it's been more white than diverse.
Yeah. More men than women.
No, they're in different roles.
Oh.
As a general rule, this is obviously not
This is a hard question
black
for
and
you.
white.
It's okay.
No, it's
Okay,
totally fine.
great.
But this is okay. I have lots to say about lots of things.
Say it.
All night.
If you can see, my brain was like.
Give me a minute or
So
We'll be here till 11.
Till 11.
casting directors, mostly, there are exceptions, mostly are women or gay men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes!
They are mostly white. Now there are exceptions. You mentioned that I'm a board member of the CSA. We are trying to have more diverse casting directors, because that will also lead to more diverse casting.
Women in gays is
But
not so
the
bad,
same
though, I just
thing-
want to say.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like the fact that directors are men and casting directors are women, like that kind of thing needs to change.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, is like, yes, these rooms are predominantly this, but there is a push to change it all around, directors, writers. Because that's, you know, when people say like, how do we get more diversity in front of the camera? It's like, yes,
It has to be
that,
so
but also
defined.
the stories have to be more
Yeah. Absolutely.
diverse.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, yeah, wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then there's, you know, like the streaming, like the Hulu's, and I did a pilot for YouTube Red, like, that's a totally different demographic.
Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Okay.
I would love to hear. We're still on the timeline, don't you worry. Because there's so much more, you know, to like once somebody does test and then they book it, and then there's that whole waiting period until something gets picked up, and then there's the upfronts, and then there's the actual series order.
Are you skipping?
No,
Oh.
no, I'm like, no, I just have a question for because I would also love to know that, like, while all of this stuff is going on, because you coach actors on their mindset and being spiritually grounded in the midst of all this madness, like,
Ignore the number.
yeah, how do you get out of the money, the opportunity, the oh my god, like what
This will
if,
change
what
my
if,
life.
what if,
Yeah.
that, because that is something
Literally,
where,
like life changing.
Yeah.
Right,
Like
yeah.
yeah, it's pivotal moments.
Yeah,
like.
so I have a few responses.
Mm.
First of all, it doesn't start in pilot season.
No.
I have a definition of self-care that I think is really important, which, I mean, that's my definition, that's maybe douchey to say, but is anything that keeps you, identify the daily behaviors that you take that keep you from fatigue, overwhelm, anxiety, and sadness or depression. Identify what they are daily. When you're in a situation like that, you put them on steroids. And if you are a spiritual person, which you're on this planet, so you are, sorry. Lean into your spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And yoga is not enough. Sorry, I'm going to be firm on that. Disciple, discipline come from the same word. So if you're a praying person, then pray. If you're a meditating person, then meditating. If you have another spiritual practice, you lean in really hard.
Yeah.
Because you know, I am neurotic right now, so I better take care of myself.
Yeah.
Or you play victim. And then you're a servant to two mindsets. And when you're a servant to two mindsets, you go into the room and you're a little bit like this.
Yeah.
And
And
we're a little
you-
bit not
they
going to
feel
trust you
that.
for 7 years.
Yeah.
And that's the part you can't talk about.
Yeah.
That's the part you can't talk about in acting
Yes.
class. Because in acting class, you don't show up with that because you're in class.
Yeah,
Easy, right?
yeah.
But this other thing that happens to you is because you didn't take care of this beautiful container you've been given on this planet right now.
And that's the energy you're walking into the room with, and regardless of, I had someone tell me this once, it was a psychic.
Same.
Yeah, but literally she was like, you have normalized anxiety from, and I knew that it was from childhood, from things that, like, just how I was raised, that I wasn't aware of. But she was like, you literally walk into the room, like, they like what you're doing, but they can't really put a finger on why they're not
Yes.
saying yes.
Exactly.
They love your work, but there's just something they can't put a finger on. And she's like, Amy, it's that.
In our tendency, because we're artists and creative people, is to go, it's about my acting, or it's about my face, or it's about my hair, it's whatever.
No,
It's actually
clearly.
about this much bigger thing, and we can much
Yes.
more readily live with this low-grade anxiety than we can confront a big change that needs to be made.
Yeah.
So we can go through many an audition where it's like, oh, it's about this, I should lose more weight, or da-da-da, which unfortunately that happens for lots of people, right? But so the truth is you have to really confront, I'm not actually taking care of my spirit, and I've never looked at how to do that. Or I've abandoned my religion of origin, or I've found a new spirituality for myself. That's all fine, great, part of your journey. Your professional growth is never going to excel beyond your personal growth. So I think it's really important that you take the time to lean into. It's not just class. Yes, please be in class all the time, but it's not just class. It's this part of who you're being in that room, and that comes from, I think, getting your feet on the ground. What practice do you have to keep your feet on the ground?
Yeah.
Right? And then also, the difficult part is the discipline. Because you want to talk to mom about it, and you want to talk to your roommate, you want to talk to your best friend, you want to really do it, and you need to be like, hey, I want to talk about this for 5 minutes, I want to create a container, and I'm going to just talk about it, and then I want to let it go because I want to let it be safe for me. And so just, how much more sacred do you get to treat that moment by just saying that? It just brings something really purposeful to your acting when you can say, I'm just going to talk about this for 5 minutes because this is exciting for me. I'm not going to fantasize about it. Fantasy's dangerous, I think, but you can imagine, that's different.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it, and can you just be excited with me for a second? Okay, and I'm gonna let it kind of soak in and then move on to my work.
I love that so much.
Because you don't get to, here's the thing, I don't believe rehearsing tragedy to not get the joy out of the situation. Don't rehearse like, I'm not gonna let myself get excited. That's a bunch of BS. That's not, you're allowed, but it's the, what am I taking care of here?
I also wanted to say, you just pinpointed something for me that I haven't been able to put into words of trust. You know, this like unspoken energy when you go into an audition room and it's like, oh, I like her, but there's just something, because you had also said that these people are looking to trust somebody with a 7-year contract. So you have to walk into that room with such a grounded energy where you're trusting yourself, you're leaned into yourself.
And that's not even just for a pilot, that's just for a
Yeah.
guest star, a co-star. Can I trust this person? Do I get the feeling that I trust
Applying
this
for a
person
home loan.
on set?
Not to make it scary, but it is different for a regular because it is, you know, and I met on a pilot that I don't think I got, which I'm telling you because I want you to know, like, same for me, because it is for actors. But it's something that's going to shoot in Bulgaria, and that was one of the things that he said was that he most was interested in was like, yes, like, I want to see tapes and stuff, but I definitely want to be in the room with the people that we're considering because I want to know, are they going to be a problem? You know, like, are they going to miss?
We're going to be in a foreign country, and we
we have nothing to do. I mean, and it happens. We've all heard stories of people that
go
get on
somewhere
set
and go
somewhere,
crazy.
and then So that's definitely a thing, more so than with like a guest star. If they act up, it's 8 days.
Right.
If a series regular acts up, it spreads through the whole show.
So that leads me then to another question, because I remember when I first started acting in LA 13 years ago, that there was so much talk about, yes, booking the room, because people are also wanting to know, do I like this person?
Mm-hmm.
How big of a deal then is that? Because I've also now recently heard a lot of other acting coaches say it's not really a big deal. Walk in, you're just a character. You know, like you don't have to do all the small talk. You can just walk. You know, yeah.
We do commercials. We don't understand that.
I've heard it. I've heard it.
I mean, it's hard because.
Like, have there been experiences?
People, there's two sides to it. Like, there are people who've come in and I say, talk themselves out of the job. Like, if somebody comes in and it's too chit-chatty and it's like, you see that there's 10 people waiting. I don't have time to have, like, full-on, you know, that's different from being, like, a human being.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how I feel, like, just.
Here's a better question.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a point where there, say it's a pilot, and there are two people where they're like, both fantastic talents, but we just like this person more, so we're gonna go in that direction?
Generally, no. What happens more often is it's the thing to not hire somebody. Like, a life's too short kind of situation. Or there are times where we've heard things, or the producers have heard things, and we will dig
About
around.
the person.
You know, like, or, you know, because
Check
everybody in
your
this town,
socials.
everybody in this town knows everybody. And so, like, if they were on another Sony show,
Yeah.
and Sony's like, they had problems, like, that would maybe keep somebody from getting the job. Or, you know, if the producer, like Sean Ryan is a good example. He's worked with tons of people that now have their own shows. And so, like, if we're considering somebody, he might call them up and say, like, hey, just want to make sure. If it's not for a guest star, but for a regular or even a recurring, you might just make a few phone calls, like, were there any issues? But it's not like I like this person better, so I'm going to hire them. I will say, as a casting director, you know, if we're talking about the top 3 choices for something, I'll say, like, this person is a really good person. Like, I've known them for a long time, and that does matter. That's just, you know, if it's somebody I've hired before, and I heard reports back from set that they were really nice to everybody, that they were nice to the crew, that they were respectful. If I hear on the other hand that they wouldn't come out of their trailer on time ever, you know, even if it's like a little independent movie. There was, I won't name names.
Who are they? Why are you here? You're rugged.
There was a little indie movie that I cast several years ago, and we got some relatively namey people for this tiny little budget, but like one of them was apparently drinking. The scene one day was in a bar, but they were drinking and like it caused issues, you know. So like that kind of stuff, like I probably won't hire. I won't hire that person again. I won't bring that person in necessarily. So,
A question.
Yeah.
On that. How much does so do you guys go to people's social media in those decisions?
Yes.
And check things? How much does that play into
Never thought of
decisions?